So you want to rent and you have no idea how much you can afford for rent, or what is it that your renting strength look like. You hear people talk about you need to have a good income, you need to have good credit score, you need to have money in the bank, you need to have all these things all flat, right? And some people say, oh, you need to have someone else assign it for you, like a grantor or something. What I'm going to share with you is what you need to understand immediately to know if you can afford the rent. Stay tuned. What's up, guys, and welcome to Neverbeless. If you're new to the channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, give the video a big thumbs up, and let's have this conversation. Now, when it comes to rent, you need to know, can you afford the rent? I'm going to share with you two things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to renting. And I'm not going to tell you about your credit score. I'm not going to tell you have enough money in the bank. We're not going to go down that line. But there's one thing that you need to know when it comes to these two things that I just mentioned. When it comes to your credit score, it's not your credit score that is really important. It's your credit report. That's what people really need to see. Your credit report is going to help the person that you're renting from to understand what your financial history is like, or money responsibility. Are you someone who knows how to pay off their debt in time? Do you have a debt, an outstanding debt that you're paying that is going to affect your rent payment? Do you have outstanding debt? Did you pay off your debt? Do you have a car that has been repossessed? You know, little things like that that is going to show what your financial responsibility is like. Are you reckless? Are you managing it well? All those fun stuff. So that's where the credit report actually comes in. Now, what I'm going to share with you is for you to understand, can you afford the rent? Now, what I want you to do to understand this is that I need you to get yourself a pen and a piece of paper, because what I'm about to share with you, you need to write it down. You need to understand it. Are you ready? I want you to take how much you make annually. You're not going to include overtime. You're not going to include bonus. Just focus on what you make annually. You could take the amount that you make an hour, multiply it by the amount of hours you work per week, and then multiply that by 52. That will give you an idea of how much you make annually. Now that you have that number, you want to take your annual amount that you make and you're going to multiply it by this magical number that I'm going to give you. And that magical number is 35%. Multiply your annual by 35%, and then you're going to take that number that you get and divide it by 12. Then you're going to run it up to the closest 100. That number right there tells you how much you can comfortably afford for rent. Now, there's two more numbers that you could factor in here. You could see how much you, based on your annual income, what is the maximum you can afford for rent versus the minimum you can afford for rent. Now, to understand the minimum that you can afford for rent, you're going to take your annual and you're going to multiply it by 30%, and you're going to divide that by 12. That will give you an idea of the minimum amount that you can afford for rent. The maximum amount that you can afford for rent is going to be at 37% of your annual income divided by 12, and that will give you the maximum amount that you can afford for your rent. That's it. You have now having an understanding of what is the minimum you can afford, what is the maximum you can afford, and the comfortable mark is the 35 that you can afford. If you find yourself looking to pay rent that is way more than what you got for 37, you're going to be living paycheck to paycheck, and you're going to be struggling to pay your rent. The next thing that you can do to understand if you can actually afford the rent is to take your paycheck. If you get paid every week or you get paid bi-weekly, you're going to take the total of 2 weeks paycheck. And if it covers your rent, good. If it doesn't cover your rent, you want to make sure that 2 weeks paycheck plus an additional week, which would be 3 weeks, the amount of that out of the month can cover your rent. If all of that is able to cover your rent, great. But if it takes you 1 full month to cover your rent, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and that's not where you want to be. I recommend 35% because 35% is a comfortable mark, because with 35%, you will know if you can afford that steak dinner and at some point save towards the trip that you want to go on. If you guys have any other strategies that you use to decide if you can afford the rent, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. Give the video a big thumbs up and share this with other people out there that could use this quick tip to know if they can afford their rent before they take on a large responsibility that they're not ready for. Until then, guys, peace.
Yo, me no need no rest, me a go on low. Do the work now, see me call out, be the best. In me out no door. When me step fresh to the gal I show, believe in it.